Okay, then shall we talk about spirit then and how it first appears to you? And when I mean appear, I don't mean obviously physically in front of you, kind of rattling chains and a blanket, but when you started kind of opening yourself up to spirit and, your first steps, and I mean beyond your first experiences, when you actually decided, right, I'm going to do this and learn this, how did it feel to you when spirit was around you?
It's a very good question. It was, I suppose it's similar to having a rush, do you call it, endorphins, when you've had some chocolate or when you've done a good workout at the gym. There's a good feel factor, and it's sort of as if we've got a sort of, you call it, excited feeling. We feel sort of energy-wise, we're thinking, oh, wow. At other times, and in the experience I have now, which I didn't have, then I do feel that you get a semblance of the person who is wanting to say hello. If they are very, very emotional, if they're very sort of stern or whatever, then you get a facet of that, which is, you think about it, it's a natural thing. You have a facet of that personality. So at times, it can give you a little bit of a stern feeling. It's linked to clairsentience, feeling. I think everybody who starts out when they first think about developing mediumship, everything is centered around the clairsentience, the feeling, so it's almost like a sort of a couple of notch down euphoria feel. You feel so, wow, it's gorgeous, and people, I think it sort of drives people on because that feeling is beautiful. You have love of your person talking to you on behalf of the person that they do want to give the message to, so that is always there. And
do you know what I would say as well is, I know what you're saying, this sense of euphoria, I know when I started, kind of sitting in circle, or I started I don't like using the term opening up, but I think what the question that I was kind of relaxing more and kind of sensing more and feeling more around me. And what it felt like to me was, as you say, it's like euphoria. It's almost like having your ears cleaned out or syringed out, that suddenly there's a greater awareness, and it's like, oh, it's kind of, oh, what, what's this? And I still have that now, that let's say I'm doing something pretty mundane, like, I don't know, cooking or, kind of making a cup of tea. Suddenly I'll feel that awareness, and I'll know that spirit's there. I'll know that something's there trying to talk to me or whatever. But sometimes, and I don't know if you get this as well, Ian, is, yes, I get that awareness, and I know that's when something's really, kind of trying to talk to me. But sometimes I'll be doing something, and then I'll have like a sneaky voice, I'll know that Joseph is saying to me, blah, 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 and I'll go, why is he getting involved now? But I didn't sense him in that respect. Kind of gets involved.
Well, yeah, but it's natural, William, the guy who's working with me, bless him, he was a scientist, a physicist, and he likens the communication process to that of a modem. Those of you over a certain age, when you used to take, attempt 1 of 5 when you're trying to get to the internet with a 1440 modem, and it took you 17 hours to download a 3 megabyte file, It is spirit link up to your brain via the subconscious, and I say this because mediums, who've been working, they would say, I would suddenly start laughing at a joke I've heard, but not knowing what the joke was, but it's been recognised, just not consciously, and I'll be just having a giggle, The way it works, spirit will be in contact with the mental, the brain of the medium. Hello, can you hear me? The subconscious awareness is yes, and then they start talking. So by the time a person, a medium, is more aware, oh, there's somebody here, then spirit have been talking for, however, maybe 5-6 seconds prior, but, to sort of get that process going. So spirit are always, this is how you say to people, you cannot guarantee to anybody that I can talk to Uncle Bob or the person you are most wanting to talk to. Spirit make that link, and it can be, doing an onerous task or when you're out and about, and some mediums would, I think quite a lot of mediums would have felt this. You just get that sort of, that urge, I am needing to go and talk to that man or that woman over there and let them know that Margaret's all right. And then your conscious self thinks, what the hell if they shout at me or thump me, or call me mad, and then you
it's so true. The amount of time, I always remember I took my in-laws to and as you know, garden centres aren't just selling plants anymore. There's a restaurant, there
is, isn't there?
There's everything. So we went into the restaurant, and I sat down, and straight away I looked forward, and my eyes were moved forward. I thought, there's a pull and it felt like a pull to this person. And as you say, straight away I was told, tell her that Jeff's all right. And I'm thinking, what? I cannot. And this was on a Sunday afternoon, absolutely heaving. Yeah. Everybody's having Yorkshire pudding and carvery, you know. I thought, there is no way on earth I'm going to get up. And she was on a table of 8 and tap her and say, hi, I'm a medium. I'm just going to let you know, I've got Jeff here. He says everything's fine. You're okay. And, you know, I thought, if I do that, I'm going to have half the table fighting me. You know? And it puts you in a predicament in a way. But yeah. I don't know if you've ever done it, but sometimes, I mean, if I get a chance, if I see that I could actually talk to this person, then I would try and say to them, I'm a medium and I have sensed this. I have passed on messages here and there when I felt that responsibly I could do it, rather than, you know, kind of making, you know, kind of walking over to a big family table and saying, excuse me, Jeff's here. He says he's all right. All right, see you. Have a good lunch. Bye. I'm going now.
No, there's a way to do it, but like it's the trust with your guide over time, which is what we do in our mediumship online course. You know, we emphasise the link and rapport with your spirit guide, and there's several times I've gone over to a gentleman and said, look, I just say I'm a medium. I said, I'll just say what I have to say and then I'll leave you alone. I said, you know, and I always say jokingly, I'm not trying to chat you up or anything there, and I'll just say, look, don't worry about your ex, or not to worry about this, and things are going to pan out all right, you know, or say things like, for instance, the job safe, you are not getting ousted, please be aware, it's coming in the post, you'll be all right. And you see the look of relief fall on the face, whether they believe or whether they don't. It's always a case of, how the bleep would they know that about me? You know, so it puts the back into them. Maybe they might want me to be making sort of their own researches into it, you know, but it sort of puts over having that trust with your guide over the processes, and knowing that they would not put you in a difficult situation, as you say, going up to a group of 8 people, and then suddenly it's a Monty Python swarm on, you know. It's everybody.
It would be as well, yeah. But I think it's one of those, the thing is about spirit as well is, I think it's a testing thing as well, so they kind of saying, you know, kind of, you should be doing that, you should be going, you should be talking to these people, yeah. You should be so they do. I think it's like a cattle prod in that, you know, kind of, you know, that's what, okay, you won't talk to in that big group, but why aren't you talking to big groups? Why aren't you doing this? Why aren't you? And they will cattle prod you. I know we asked people who follow us on our Facebook page and our forum what kind of experiences that they have when they know that spirit is around them. And what I want to say here is some of these people aren't professionals. These people are, I would say that a lot of them are still very much learning. Some of these people are more sensitive than others. But I think it would be great to share with everybody what kind of experiences people have. Because one thing myself and Ian, we do, that there's no uniformity. So there's no set, rigid, this is how it should feel. And I think by sharing these experiences would be a great way of showing you how people react. I'll read the first one, the long one.
Yes, Martin, please.
I don't know who sent this in. I think Ian does. But it's a really lovely experience. And the person wrote, I have experienced a feeling that someone is in the room, like expecting an indentation of someone sitting on the bed next to me. But it's not really there, but feel that they should be, as if somebody should be there. So it's like a feeling that somebody's in the room, yes. Or a feeling of being watched from someone sitting in the corner in the room. Both happened when a close male friend died suddenly from suicide. Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that. Yeah, I felt like he was trying to get as close as possible to me to let me know that he was there without scaring me. He didn't declare our true feelings this side of life, and now it's too late. But our feelings as well. Yeah, 8 days later, another psychic that was a complete stranger to me gave me a message from him which confirmed that which was a comfort. When my late dad is around, I smell burnt rubber or petrol, like an old-fashioned garage forecourt. He drove petrol tankers for Esso as a young man, not his most recent job, but his favourite job, and he won trophies for his lorry. Well, what a wonderful way I think that is.
It is. To do. Well, it is. It's natural. You know, people get, I'm getting cigar smoke or pipe smoke, and that is granddad or dad. And, you know, it's or the high-scented perfume. You know, the older generation used to make their own, didn't they? And what, you know, doing the water of rose petals in water, you know. So, and you get that sort of thing as well. It's very, very common.
I think it's a lovely sign. I think it's especially for me, it's one that you connect to. You instantly connect to that particular person. And smell's a great way of doing it. I've asked my dad for help occasionally, like finding missing items or lost keys, etc., and they have turned up. I'm going through quite a hard time now. Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that. And so I wonder what he would think of everything. Am I doing the right thing? I so wish I could talk to him, and rather he could answer me, but not sensed him around since moving. Well, what I would say is, I think you agree here, is that this person is probably going through a lot of stress, especially looking after a mum, and moving, which probably was quite distressful, moving from a home that was connected to a dad, he or her dad, and now living in this new home, their mum. That I think probably the stress and everything is probably interrupting the connection. Do you think?
Yeah, definitely. It's the brain wave is more likely to be in the beta wave range. That is the one when working consciously. We're doing things, and it's a very, very fast brain rhythm, and it sort of puts over you are needing to be calm in a relaxed state, almost an altered state of awareness, and that's why most stuff happens in the alpha wave. It was called the alpha wave because it was the first one found, but this is where you are looking at the stage where you're reading a book, you're falling asleep, just waking up, you're doing an onerous task and your mind's wandering. So when you're having stress, not only the body processes, the cortisol and all that sort of thing running right through lots of the situations just add up to it. And the brainwave, Dad is probably saying, I am here, and you don't recognize it because it's just not getting through.
I mean, obviously we send love and healing to this person, and keep strong. You're obviously a carer. You just need to stay strong, and also as well as importantly is you need to give time to yourself. And that's probably another reason why you're not able to sense your dad, is that you're not giving yourself enough time to just sit down, have a cup of tea and just relax, and maybe just, again, not necessarily meditate, but just kind of not do anything, just relax. And I'm sure that your dad being there so strong before would actually be there here and now. And especially with your mum's condition, I think when a loved one like that is ill, then the spirit definitely come through for you.
Oh, definitely. I just want to cover some, if I may, very, very quickly. Comes off the stemming of this. I've had this question asked to me several times. If I move house, would my loved ones know where I am? And it's a very genuine and honest question, and with you, it doesn't matter whether you move to the other side of the world or the other side of the country. Love is where you are, so spirit know you, they know your energy. They don't see the physical world as we do. They see us by energy. They recognize us. So wherever you move, your loved ones will very, very much be there.
Yeah, absolutely. Shall I read the next experience?
Yes, please, Martin.
Yeah. First thing was a CD moved while I was out. So I think this is somebody's first experiences of spirit is that a CD moved. And then the clock moved. And after that, I now get nose touching feeling and what feels like someone playing with my hair. And also instincts. A few times the house alarm has gone off the night before. Bad news. This has happened 5 times. So there's some interesting activity there. Let's break this down. So obviously the CD moved is, I think, and the clock moving is probably some sort of sign, kind of just saying, hello, we're here, sort of thing. Yeah, absolutely. The nose touching feeling, and again, feeling like someone playing with my hair. I would say that's probably, and I'm kind of maybe a bit out here with this, but I think that's probably connected with what your spirit guide actually is. That the playing with the hair, the nose touching, it seems quite mischievous. Yeah. It seems so I don't know if that might be linked in with how the spirit guide interacts with this person.
Playing devil's advocate, could it be responses from the physical body? The nerve endings in the skin. We've had it on paranormal events where people get touched by their hair or their skin, and I sort of look at it at times, and I'm not this is the case with this, because as you said, they're all very, very unique to everybody, but maybe it's the body's sort of energy, the fight and flight, the aura pushes, that might give you the little bit of a hair lift. And certainly people, the nerve endings, I've just been touched on my hand, when it sort of comes over, is it the nerves? People say, there's somebody touching my leg when I'm in bed, but the venous flow, where it pumps up towards the heart as we move, because the arteries have blood force through them, whereas through walking and whatever gets the blood coming back up through your veins. And at times you can get little sort of indentations around your legs. That's very much clear as soon as you sort of start dozing off. Maybe it's that, or again, maybe it is your spirit guide touching your nose and saying hello.
Yeah, it's right in front of your nose. That's
yeah.
I think also as well, as you say, it's like what feels like somebody playing with my hair. We've all heard of, kind of hair standing on end when people are scared. Or that there's electric static, in the air when spirits are around. So it could be a number of those things. I think this person needs to build their connection with their guide. And it says also instincts. A few times the house alarm has gone off in the night before bad news, and this has happened 5 times.
Yeah.
I find that fascinating because
I do as well.
Yeah, there's many sort of stories where I always remember. Do you remember Talbot Inn in Oundle?
Yeah.
There was a lane behind it. Was well known that people would hear bells before a member of royalty died, and several times. I mean, this dates back from the 1700s all the way through to Queen Victoria. The bells were only heard on this lane, and it was at midnight before the next day a member of the royal family died.
Oh, wow.
So it's interesting. You could say it's just folklore, but I just find it an interesting thing. And this reminds me of that, really, that this house alarm went off the night before bad news happened.
Yeah, the fact it's happened 5 times, and obviously this person has noted it, whether written it in their diary or whatever, but it's not spurious. If you can say, oh yeah, I had it happen once, then it's a coincidence. But 5 times, it sort of thinks, hang on a minute, there's something definitely there, isn't there?
Amazing, yeah. Make sure that you keep hold of that alarm. That's what I'd say with that one. There's another one here as well. This is from somebody else, and it says, to be honest, it varies. Sometimes a feeling, in dreams, intuition, smells, and catching movements out of the corner of my eye. I think that sums it. I think that sums up being a medium, really.
Yeah, well, it is. I know from our chats that there's a lot happening in your house. The same here. Luckily, Millie, that's my cat. It's flat out, so she's not going to try and push your door open or get on the mic, But as you say, like a medium, hearing footsteps, seeing things move, having a person suddenly pop up and say hello. I don't mean like Mr. Ben, but suddenly they're there and, oh, hello, how are you? Or giving you a message or that type of thing. I think it's beautiful. But through smells, as which we've mentioned above, dreams is a very real thing, because if we are busy in our working life, then, what time do we have for spirit to say hello? Because we're too busy. So being in a sleep state, then you have to look at, maybe that's a way of spirit saying hello.
Yeah, absolutely. I think all of these things are very valid. The dreams, the intuition, the slight movements out of your eye. Obviously, you have to rule out, which we've said before, where certain optical effects can look like movements in the corner of the eye. But I've experienced similar things where you feel that there's something there or moving and you see that. I think it's one of those things where I think the difference between a medium and a psychic and, shall we say, a muggle or somebody who doesn't claim to be a medium or psychic is that we probably take more notice of these things, these little incidences. I was aware the other day, actually, that I was in my living room walking through and the TV on, and it was talking about coronavirus. And very clearly, I knew Joseph was behind me. I could sense him. And suddenly he said, why aren't they using frankincense? Frankincense? Why frankincense? Because, to me, frankincense is just, kind of, you imagine it in a Orthodox church or, kind of that sort of thing. And I thought, why is he talking about frankincense? And I went online, and actually frankincense oil has actually been used for respiratory, to help with respiration and to help people breathe better. And it can be used in an oil and rubbed on the chest a bit like Vicks, but you put a few drops of frankincense in it. And I'd never heard of that. And it was like, right. So I went out and I've got some frankincense. So I'm prepared.
Good. No, but it is. It's just little things like that you have to go and check on and find out it is valid. But, looking at Joseph, would he be in his day, would they have done a lot of that? They're going around one of those on the end of a chain, isn't it? Just sort of wafting all the through the church.
Well, with Joseph, he was a traveller and he travelled around, and certainly I feel that, well, he's told me not so many words, is that he, in fact, talks to me now, but he basically was collecting knowledge, that he was interested in knowledge, old knowledge. And I think what the circumstance there with the frankincense is that he was looking at, kind of why people aren't using it for modern day ailments. So, but I'm not suggesting that everybody should go out there and buy frankincense by any means, because we all have allergies and sometimes frankincense can play with that. But it's certainly something that I've bought, and I've never heard of it being used for respiratory. But when I went online and did some further digging, it can actually help with the lungs and help with breathing. So it can be used in a mister, and mist obviously helps with the lungs anyway. And it can also be used as a cream as well.
Yes, definitely. But it's just nice what information you can get, isn't it?
Yeah, really good. Yeah, random information from spirit. Here's another one. I get a pressure change in my ears and they pop.
Mm-hmm.
It depends. During a vigil, I ask them to come forward. I have seen, heard, smelt, and been touched by spirit in these situations. Well, that's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, definitely.
Very lucky person there. Other times, it is mostly on being relaxed and not focusing on anything. So that's kind of like a form of meditation. They are auditory at first, although I do have ones who feel more urgent that appear with lights to get my attention. What do you think to the lights? I think that's interesting. That's an interesting phenomenon.
It is, but being on the many vigils, where watch and listen, when you're on a paranormal event, we had a big instance, we had flashing, big flashes of lights. You remember that?
I remember them, yeah. The big. You had one at Warwick, didn't you?
Yeah, the one at Warwick. There was a gentleman talking to me in French, and I had to ask the group, and he's saying this, and he said, "Oh, there's fire in 5 minutes," and 5 minutes later, this big flash of light came over, and it blinded people. You know what I mean? It was, and we were in the wall of the actual castle where the guards would have gone to man the walls, so it wasn't from outside. And bloody hell, it was bright. Pardon me for swearing there, ladies and gentlemen. But it sort of puts over, it was, and then Nottingham Goal, when we were down in the pits, as you call it, or that area there. Remember, we sort of said to the bloke who was stood with us, empty your pockets, get that flashlight out, because he just went,
yeah. That popping noise above his head. That was really weird, wasn't it? Yeah, I mean, lights are interesting, and I think when they're seen by multiple witnesses as well, that they're physical, that's really interesting. I think what interests me as well is that pressure change in my ears and that they pop.
Yes.
I mean that's interesting from a physical phenomena, because there's always been one thing I say about ghost hunting, and what a lot of people really misunderstand about ghost investigation is you're not trying to detect the ghost. What you're trying to detect is the ghost or spirit interacting with the environment and changing the environment. So that's why you measure temperature. That's why you measure electromagnetic fields. That's why you measure the pressure. I mean, I've measured everything. I used to have a laptop with a full deck of, kind of every monitor you could think, lights, everything. The pressure change in my ear, in the ears, as they say, and then they feel like they pop. I wonder if that is actually something physical, or whether that's actually something that how they're sensing that person, that spirit's around them.
I think it's a little bit of both, because people say, oh, yeah, you have your ears pop when you go over a certain height in the aeroplane. They used to give you a sweet, didn't they, for the kids. But, so it must vary in the change of the, what's the word? Barometric pressure, yeah. Sorry, Martin, I couldn't get that word out.
I can't remember it. Don't worry.
But it is, but there must be some variance there. And when there's static there, it's very real. The old adage, your hair stands on end. You could say, is it fight, flight? The hair follicles tend to, in order to sort of trap the heat, in there, then the hairs stand on end. That's where you get the goosebumps, because basically the goosebumps is the hair follicle swelling. So the hair stands upright. That is to trap warm air to keep you warm. So maybe it's part of it, if you are the fight, flight, then you want your muscles warm or your skin warm, rather than being cold and not being able to adequately fight or leg it, So I just feel the static could be that on a heightened awareness, the ear popping, the pressure's changed, and you've subconsciously recognised that there's something here different, there's a pressure here. And, I just find it, all of these facets, it gets the scientific side in, sort of, how can we do that? You know what I mean?
Well, it's interesting. The final one that somebody sent to us, this kind of runs into what you've just been talking about. From what I had learned, they've had a feeling of pressure on the head and a combined feeling of static electricity, usually making the hair on my arms and back of neck stand on end, together with a feeling of coldness creeping into my auric field and into my bones, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So again, that kind of feeling that maybe this is like a psychic reaction, really, to that spirit's there, and because they've not been able to determine whether it is friend or foe, you've got that static electricity feeling, and your hairs are standing up as like a cat. You kind of, kind of what's, and probably that's the sense of coldness as well, is creeping into the auric field, is your blood pulls away from your skin, doesn't it? That. So, I mean, that's interesting as well, because that's a similar experience. I mean, also this person has had high pitch ringing in the right ear, shadows, music, and numbers. So to me, there are symbols and signs that spirit are trying to give to them, especially with the music and numbers. Because you're not a music guy, are you? You don't listen to a lot of music, but you do hear a lot of music titles, don't you?
Yeah, when I'm giving readings and, whatever the question is, where I can be getting songs like Working My Way Back to You, Baby. The thing fascinates me is I get a snippet of the lyrics and I get told who sings it. And I thought, hey, I've got a sleeping pension of 19. I listen to music in the car, the radio, but that is it really, and yet I can be saying, oh yeah, it's Jimmy Rafferty or it's this. And I'm thinking, who's Jimmy Rafferty? Do you know what I mean? But
and does it link in with your guides? Why would your guides be using a reference that you would not understand?
Yeah, it's generally for the person on the other end of the phone.
Right, okay.
Oh my God, that's my favourite song. I always think of that person.
Right, I understand now, yeah. So the song is actually a piece of evidence for the person who's calling.
For the person, because it mean nothing to me.
No, it's interesting, isn't it? Kind of, again, I know you're not a music person, so to get a random title and name must be really.
What do you call it? Now is the time to put things right. I just noticed a 70s song by Jimmy somebody, and that was it. But I was talking to one person, and she just started crying. I give her a song title because that's been in my head all morning. I've been thinking about this person. That song has been in my head all morning. How the hell did you get that? So I said, well, Spirit told me, so it's obviously have import, so it did mean the world to that person.
Yeah, I mean, you look through all of these experiences, and thank you everybody who sent in their experiences to us. It's really nice that you've shared your experiences with everybody, and I think all of these experiences really sum up what it's like to be a psychic or medium, and what it sums up is that information from spirit can come in many different formats, and none are wrong. And, there's not one uniformity at all. One person's experience might be slightly similar, but generally speaking, is spirit can come to you in whatever's best for you personally. I think that's the theme here, is usually it's in fact, it's not even usually, they come to you in a way that they know that you're not going to be frightened and running down the street thinking that you're possessed.
They will use your own faculties. Like I say, if you're a very sensitive, emotional person, then they will use that. If you're more of a logical mind, then it comes in dates, numbers, figures. You know what I mean? So it is what is part of you. It's what the essence, mediumship is clouded by our own personality, so spirit obviously use our personality, our understanding, experience in order to put a viewpoint across.
This is interesting. Is also as well as spirit grows with you as well as a person. 20 years ago or so, I would say that I was very, very guarded with my emotions. I never got upset about anything, never, kind of nothing, kind of fazed me or that sort of thing. But as I've got older, and obviously I've got 2 children now, as I've got older, I've become very emotionally attached with things. So, sometimes even, I've even cried at films, I'm a real, kind of softy. But my mediumship has changed as well in that period of time, where I do sense far more emotion than I ever did. And I think it's because as I've grown as a person and as my personality's changed, that spirit's been able to give me a more rounded experience. So I do feel very empathetically. I do connect very, I feel a lot of the emotion. And sometimes it gets a bit too much. So I have to say, just scale it down from 11 down to 2, please. So.
Oh no, it is though. It's a very, it's a very valid point, and this is where, developing as a medium, it does change you. It can't not, when you're having a glimpse into somebody else's life and the love they shared for the person you're talking to, it can't help but change you.
Well, you've said the same thing. Is that I remember that sometimes that. You've been nearly moved to tears with the sense of love that's kind of come through in the reading. This, the kind of adoration and kind of all-encompassing love. And you've said that a few times, many times.
I've had tears running down my face, and I've had to say to the person I'm talking to, because they're crying, I'm saying, look, I say to everybody, so look, folks, I'm sorry, this is just the amount of love that's coming through. But you can feel it all in the whole building. They're all sending love to that one person,
Oh, that's really beautiful. Really beautiful. And I think we should end the podcast on that note. That spirit is love, and it's beautiful. Thank you very much again, Ian. It's been it's really rewarding to talk about people's experiences. It really is. And I hope everybody who's listened to this podcast really take away some of the points that people have talked about and the experiences, and that you move on with yours as well. And if you've got any questions or anything like that, please drop us an email or go to our Facebook page. You can PM us through there, privately message us, and we're very happy to help anybody at all. We both try to help everybody on their spiritual path.
Thank you. And cheers, Martin.
Cheers.